translation of Sahih Bukhari, Book 48, Witnesses. Volume 3, Book 48, number 805, narrated Urwa bin al-Musayyab, Alqama bin Waqas and Ubaydullah bin Abdullah. About the story of Aisha, and their narrations were similar, attesting each other, when the liars said what they invented about Aisha, and the divine inspiration was delayed. Allah's apostle sent for Ali and Usama to consult them in divorcing his wife, that is Aisha. Usama said, "Keep your wife, as we know nothing about her except good." Buraira said, "I cannot accuse her of any defect except that she is still a young girl who sleeps, neglecting her family's dough which the domestic goats come to eat, that is, she was too simple-minded to deceive her husband." Allah's apostle said, "Who can help me to take revenge over the man who has harmed me by defaming the reputation of my family? By Allah, I have not known about my family anything except good." And they mentioned, "That is accused a man about whom I did not know anything except good." Number 806, narrated Abdullah bin Umar, Allah's apostle and Ubay bin Ka'b al-Ansari went to the garden where Ibn Sa'id used to live. When Allah's apostle entered the garden, he, that is Allah's apostle, started hiding himself behind the detaples as he wanted to hear secretly the talk of Ibn Sa'id before the latter saw him. Ibn Sa'id, wrapped with a soft decorated sheet, was lying on his bed murmuring. Ibn Sa'id's mother saw the Prophet hiding behind the stems of the date palms. She addressed Ibn Sa'id saying, "O Saf, this is Muhammad." Hearing that Ibn Sa'id stopped murmuring or got cautious, the Prophet said, if she had left him undisturbed, he would have revealed his reality. See Hadith number 290, Volume 4 for details. Number 807, narrated Aisha, the wife of Rafa'a al-Qurazi, came to the Prophet and said, "I was Rafa'a's wife, but he divorced me and it was a final irrevocable divorce. Then I married Abdurrahman bin Zubair, but he is impotent." The Prophet asked her, "Do you want to remarry Rafa'a?" "You cannot unless you had a complete sexual relation with your present husband." Abu Bakr was sitting with Allah's apostle and Khalid bin Said bin Al-As was at the door waiting to be admitted. He said, "O Abu Bakr, do you hear what this woman is revealing frankly before the Prophet?" Number 808, narrated Abdullah bin Abu Mulaika from Uqba bin al-Harith. Uqba married the daughter of Abu Ayyub bin Aziz, and then a woman came and said, "I suckled Uqba and his wife." Uqba said to her, "I do not know that you have suckled me, and you did not inform me." He then sent someone to the house of Abu Ayyub to inquire about that, but they did not know that she had suckled their daughter. Then Uqba went to the Prophet in Medina and asked him about it. The Prophet said to him, "How can you keep your wife after it has been said that both of you were suckled by the same woman?" So, he divorced her and she was married to another husband. Number 809, narrated Umar bin al-Khattab, people were sometimes judged by the revealing of a divine inspiration during the lifetime of Allah's apostle, but now there is no longer any more new revelation. Now we judge you by the deeds you practice publicly, so we will trust and favor the one who does good deeds in front of us, and we will not call him to account about what he is really doing in secret, for Allah will judge him for that. But we will not trust or believe the one who presents to us with an evil deed, even if he claims that his intentions were good. Number 810, narrated Anas, a funeral procession passed in front of the Prophet and the people praised the deceased. The Prophet said, "It has been affirmed paradise." Then another funeral procession passed by and the people talked badly of the deceased. The Prophet said, "It has been affirmed hell." Allah's apostle was asked, "O Allah's apostle, you said it has been affirmed for both." The Prophet said, "The testimony of the people is accepted, for the believer are Allah's witnesses on the earth." Number 811, narrated Abu al-Aswad, once I went to Medina where there was an outbreak of disease and the people were dying rapidly. I was sitting with Umar and a funeral procession passed by. The people praised the deceased. Umar said, "It has been affirmed paradise." Then another funeral procession passed by. The people praised the deceased. Umar said, "It has been affirmed paradise." Then another funeral procession passed by. The people praised the deceased. Umar said, "It has been affirmed paradise." Then a third funeral procession passed by and the people talked badly of the deceased. Umar said, "It has been affirmed hell." I asked Umar, O chief of the believers, what has been affirmed? He said, I have said what the Prophet said. He said, Allah will admit into paradise any Muslim whose good character is attested by 4 persons. We asked the Prophet, if there were 3 witnesses only? He said, even 3. We asked, if there were 2 only? He said, even 2. But we did not ask him about 1 witness. Number 812, narrated Aisha, Afla asked the permission to visit me but I did not allow him. He said, do you veil yourself before me although I am your uncle? Aisha said, how is that? Afla replied, you were suckled by my brother's wife with my brother's milk. I asked Allah's apostle about it, and he said, Allah is right, so permit him to visit you. Number 813, narrated Ibn Abbas, the Prophet said about Hamza's daughter, I am not legally permitted to marry her, as foster relations are treated like blood relations in marital affairs, she is the daughter of my foster brother. Number 814, narrated Amr bin Abdurrahman, that Aisha the wife of the Prophet told her uncle that once, while the Prophet was in her house, she heard a man asking Hafsa's permission to enter her house. Aisha said, I said, O Allah's apostle, I think the man is Hafsa's foster uncle. Aisha added, O Allah's apostle, there is a man asking the permission to enter your house. Allah's apostle replied, I think the man is Hafsa's foster uncle. Aisha said, if so-and-so were living that is her foster uncle would he be allowed to visit me? Allah's apostle said, yes, he would, as the foster relations are treated like blood relations in marital affairs. Number 815, narrated Aisha, once the Prophet came to me while a man was in my house. He said, O Aisha, who is this man? I replied, my foster brothers. He said, O Aisha, be sure about your foster brothers, as fostership is only valid if it takes place in the suckling period before 2 years of age. Number 816, narrated Urwa bin Zubair, a woman committed theft in the Ghazwa of the conquest of Mecca and she was taken to the Prophet who ordered her hand to be cut off. Aisha said, her repentance was perfect and she was married later and used to come to me after that and I would present her needs to Allah's apostle. Number 817, narrated Zayd bin Khalid, Allah's apostle ordered that an unmarried man who committed illegal sexual intercourse be scourged 100 lashes and sent into exile for 1 year. Number 818, narrated An-Nu'man bin Bashir, my mother asked my father to present me a gift from his property, and he gave it to me after some hesitation. My mother said that she would not be satisfied unless the Prophet was made a witness to it. I being a young boy, my father held me by the hand and took me to the Prophet. He said to the Prophet, his mother, Bint Rawaya, requested me to give this boy a gift. The Prophet said, do you have other sons besides him? He said, yes. The Prophet said, do not make me a witness for injustice. Narrated Ash-Shabi that the Prophet said, I will not become a witness for injustice. Number 819, narrated Zadam bin Madrab, I heard Imran bin Hussein saying, the Prophet said, the best people are those living in my generation, then those coming after them, and then those coming after the second generation. Imran said, I do not know whether the Prophet mentioned 2 or 3 generations after your present generation. The Prophet added, there will be some people after you, who will be dishonest and will not be trustworthy and will give witness evidences without being asked to give witness, and will vow but will not fulfill their vows, and fatness will appear among them. Number 820, narrated Abdullah, the Prophet said, the people of my generation are the best, then those who follow them, and then those who follow the latter. After that there will come some people whose witness will go ahead of their oaths, and their oaths will go ahead of their witness. Ibrahim, a sub-narrator, said, we used to be beaten for taking oaths by saying, I bear witness by the name of Allah or by the covenant of Allah. Number 821, narrated Anas, the Prophet was asked about the great sins. He said, they are 1. To join others in worship with Allah, 2. To be undutiful to one's parents, 3. To kill a person which Allah has forbidden to kill, that is to commit the crime of murdering, 4. And to give a false witness. Number 822, narrated Abu Bakr, the Prophet said thrice, should I inform you out the greatest of the great sins? They said, Yes, O Allah's Apostle. He said, to join others in worship with Allah and to be undutiful to one's parents. The Prophet then sat up after he had been reclining on a pillow and said, And I warn you against giving a false witness, and he kept on saying that warning till we thought he would not stop. See Hadith number 7, volume 8. Number 823, narrated Aisha, the Prophet heard a man reciting Quran in the mosque, and he said, May Allah bestow His mercy upon him. No doubt, he made me remember such and such verses of such and such surah which I dropped from my memory. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet performed the tahajjud prayer in my house, and then he heard the voice of Abbas who was praying in the mosque, and said, O Aisha, is this Abbad's voice? I said, Yes. He said, O Allah, be merciful to Abbas. Number 824, narrated Abdullah bin Umar, the Prophet said, Bilal pronounces the adhan when it is still night before dawn, so eat and drink till the next adhan is pronounced or till you hear Ibn Maktum's adhan. Ibn Maktum was a blind man who would not pronounce the adhan till he was told that it was dawn. Number 825, narrated Al-Miswar bin Makrama, some outer garments were received the Prophet and my father Makrama said to me, Let us go to the Prophet so that he may give us something from the garments. So, my father stood at the door and spoke. The Prophet recognized his voice and came out carrying a garment and telling Makrama the good qualities of that garment, adding, I have kept this for you, I have sent this for you. Number 826, narrated Abu Said al-Khudri, the Prophet said, Isn't the witness of a woman equal to half of that of a man? The women said, Yes. He said, This is because of the deficiency of a woman's mind. Number 827, narrated Uqba bin al-Harith, that he had married bin Abu. He said, A black slave lady came and said, I suckled you both. I then mentioned that to the Prophet who turned his face aside. Uqba further said, I went to the other side and told the Prophet about it. He said, How can you keep her as your wife when the lady has said that she suckled both of you, that is you and your wife? So, the Prophet ordered him to divorce her. Number 828, narrated Uqba bin al-Harith, I married a woman and later on a woman came and said, I suckled you both. So, I went to the Prophet to ask him about it. He said, How can you keep her as a wife when it has been said that you were foster brother and sister? Divorce her. Number 829, narrated Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, whenever Allah's Apostle intended to go on a journey, he would draw lots amongst his wives and would take with him the one upon whom the lot fell. During a ghazwa of his, he drew lots amongst us and the lot fell upon me, and I proceeded with him after Allah had decreed the use of the veil by women. I was carried in a howdah on the camel and dismounted while still in it. When Allah's Apostle was through with his ghazwa and returned home, and we approached the city of Medina, Allah's Apostle ordered us to proceed at night. When the order of setting off was given, I walked till I was past the army to answer the call of nature. After finishing I returned to the camp to depart with the others and suddenly realized that my necklace over my chest was missing. So, I returned to look for it and was delayed because of that. The people who used to carry me on the camel, came to my howdah and put it on the back of the camel, thinking that I was in it, as, at that time, women were light in weight, and thin and lean, and did not use to eat much. So, those people did not feel the difference in the heaviness of the howdah while lifting it, and they put it over the camel. At that time I was a young lady. They set the camel moving and proceeded on. I found my necklace after the army had gone, and came to their camp to find nobody. So, I went to the place where I used to stay, thinking that they would discover my absence and come back in my search. While in that state, I felt sleepy and slept. Safan bin Mu'adil as-Sulami ad-Dikwani was behind the army and reached my abode in the morning. When he saw a sleeping person, he came to me, and he used to see me before veiling. So, I got up when I heard him saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, we are for Allah, and we will return to him. He made his camel kneel down. He got down from his camel, and put his leg on the front legs of the camel, and then I rode and sat over it. Safan set out walking, leading the camel by the rope till we reached the army who had halted to take rest at midday. Then whoever was meant for destruction, fell into destruction. Some people accused me falsely, and the leader of the false accusers was Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul. After that we returned to Medina, and I became ill for 1 month while the people were spreading the forged statements of the false accusers. I was feeling during my ailment as if I were not receiving the usual kindness from the Prophet which I used to receive from him when I got sick. But he would come, greet and say, "How is that girl?" I did not know anything of what was going on till I recovered from my ailment and went out with Mistah to the Manasi where we used to answer the call of nature, and we used not to go to answer the call of nature except from night to night, and that was before we had lavatories near to our houses. And this habit of ours was similar to the habit of the old Arabs in the open country or away from houses, so I and Mistah bint Rum went out walking. Mistah stumbled because of her long dress, and on that she said, "Let Mistah be ruined." I said, "You are saying a bad word. Why are you abusing a man who took part in the battle of Badr?" She said, "Oh Hanada, you there, didn't you hear what they said?" Then she told me the rumors of the false accusers. My sickness was aggravated, and when I returned home, Allah's apostle came to me, and after greeting he said, "How is that girl?" I requested him to allow me to go to my parents. I wanted then to be sure of the news through them. Allah's apostle allowed me, and I went to my parents and asked my mother, "What are the people talking about?" She said, "Oh my daughter, don't worry much about this matter. By Allah, never is there a charming woman loved by her husband who has other wives, but the women would forge false news about her." I said, "Glorify be Allah. Are the people really taking of this matter?" That night I kept on weeping and could not sleep till morning. In the morning Allah's apostle called Ali bin Abi Talib and Usama bin Zayd when he saw the divine inspiration delayed, to counsel them about divorcing his wife, that is Aisha. Usama bin Zayd said what he knew of the good reputation of his wives and added, "O Allah's apostle, keep your wife, for, by Allah, we know nothing about her but good." Ali bin Abi Talib said, "O Allah's apostle, Allah has no imposed restrictions on you, and there are many women other than she, yet you may ask the woman servant who will tell you the truth." On that Allah's apostle called Buraira and said, "O Buraira, did you ever see anything which roused your suspicions about her?" Buraira said, "No, by Allah who has sent you with the truth, I have never seen in her anything faulty except that she is a girl of immature age, who sometimes sleeps and leaves the dough for the goats to eat." On that day Allah's apostle ascended the pulpit and requested that somebody support him in punishing Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul. Allah's apostle said, "Who will support me to punish that person, Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul, who has hurt me by slandering the reputation of my family? By Allah, I know nothing about my family but good, and they have accused a person about whom I know nothing except good, and he never entered my house except in my company." Sa'd bin Mu'adh got up and said, "O Allah's apostle, by Allah, I will relieve you from him. If that man is from the tribe of the Aus, then we will chop his head off, and if he is from our brothers, the Khazraj, then order us, and we will fulfill your order." On that Sa'd bin Ubadah, the chief of the Khazraj, and before this incident, he had been a pious man, got up, motivated by his zeal for his tribe, and said, "By Allah, you have told a lie. You cannot kill him, and you will never be able to kill him." On that Uzayd bin al-Hadar got up and said to Sa'd bin Ubadah, "By Allah, you are a liar. By Allah, we will kill him. And you are a hypocrite, defending the hypocrites." On this the two tribes of Aus and Khazraj got excited and were about to fight each other, while Allah's apostle was standing on the pulpit. He got down and quietened them till they became silent, and he kept quiet. On that day I kept on weeping so much so that neither did my tears stop, nor could I sleep. In the morning my parents were with me, and I had wept for 2 nights and a day, till I thought my liver would burst from weeping. While they were sitting with me and I was weeping, an Ansari woman asked my permission to enter, and I allowed her to come in. She sat down and started weeping with me. While we were in this state, Allah's apostle came and sat down, and he had never sat with me since the day they forged the accusation. no revelation regarding my case came to him for a month. He recited Tashahhud, that is, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah and Muhammad is his apostle, and then said, O Aisha, I have been informed such and such about you. If you are innocent, then Allah will soon reveal your innocence, and if you have committed a sin, then repent to Allah and ask Him to forgive you, for when a person confesses a sin and asks Allah for forgiveness, Allah accepts his repentance. When Allah's apostle finished his speech, my tears ceased completely and there remained not even a single drop of it. I requested my father to reply to Allah's apostle on my behalf. My father said, By Allah, I do not know what to say to Allah's apostle. I said to my mother, Talk to Allah's apostle on my behalf. She said, By Allah, I do not know what to say to Allah's apostle. I was a young girl and did not have much knowledge of the Quran. I said, I know, by Allah, that you have listened to what people are saying and that has been planted in your minds and you have taken it as a truth. Now, if I told you that I am innocent and Allah knows that I am innocent, you would not believe me, and if I confess to you falsely that I am guilty, and Allah knows that I am innocent, you would believe me. By Allah, I don't compare my situation with you except to the situation of Joseph's father, that is Jacob, who said, So for me patience is most fitting against that which you assert, and it is Allah alone whose help can be sought. Then I turned to the other side of my bed hoping that Allah would prove my innocence. By Allah, I never thought that Allah would reveal divine inspiration in my case, as I considered myself too inferior to be talked of in the Holy Quran. I had hoped that Allah's apostle might have a dream in which Allah would prove my innocence. By Allah, Allah's apostle had not got up and nobody had left the house before the divine inspiration came to Allah's apostle. So, there overtook him the same state which used to overtake him, when he used to have, on being inspired divinely, he was sweating so much so that the drops of the sweat were dropping like pearls, though it was a cold wintry day. When that state of Allah's apostle was over, he was smiling, and the first word he said, Aisha, thank Allah, for Allah has declared your innocence. My mother told me to go to Allah's apostle. I replied, By Allah, I will not go to him and will not thank but Allah. So Allah revealed, Verily, they who spread the slander are a gang among you. Quran 24 verse 11. When Allah gave the declaration of my innocence, Abu Bakr, who used to provide for Mistah bin Uthatha, for he was his relative, said, By Allah, I will never provide Mistah with anything because of what he said about Aisha. But Allah later revealed, And let not those who are good and wealthy among you swear not to help their kinsmen, those in need and those who left their homes in Allah's cause. Let them forgive and overlook. Do you not wish that Allah should forgive you? Verily, Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. Quran 24 verse 22. After that Abu Bakr said, Yes. By Allah, I like that Allah should forgive me, and resumed helping Mistah, whom he used to help before. Allah's apostle also asked Zainab bint Jahsh, that is the Prophet's wife, about me, saying, What do you know and what did you see? She replied, O Allah's apostle, I refrain to claim hearing or seeing what I have not heard or seen. By Allah, I know nothing except goodness about Aisha. Aisha further added, Zainab was competing with me in her beauty and the Prophet's love, yet Allah protected her from being malicious, for she had piety. Number 830, narrated Abu Bakr, a man praised another man in front of the Prophet. The Prophet said to him, Woe to you, you have cut off your companion's neck, you have cut off your companion's neck, repeating it several times, and then added, Whoever amongst you has to praise his brother should say, I think that he is so and so, and Allah knows exactly the truth, and I do not confirm anybody's good conduct before Allah, but I think him so and so, if he really knows what he says about him. Number 831, narrated Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, the Prophet heard someone praising another and exaggerating in his praise. The Prophet said, You have ruined or cut the man's back by praising him so much. Number 832, narrated Ibn Umar, Allah's apostle called me to present myself in front of him or the eve of the Battle of Uhud, while I was 14 years of age at that time, and he did not allow me to take part in that battle, but he called me in front of him on the eve of the Battle of the Trench when I was 15 years old, and he allowed me to join the battle. Nafi said, I went to Umar bin Abdul Aziz, who was caliph at that time, and related the above narration to him. He said, this age 15 is the limit between childhood and manhood, and wrote to his governors to give salaries to those who reached the age of 15. Number 833, narrated Abu Said al-Khudri, the Prophet said, bath on Friday is compulsory for those who have attained the age of puberty. Number 834, narrated Abdullah, Allah's apostle said, if somebody takes a false oath in order to get the property of a Muslim unjustly by that oath, then Allah will be angry with him when he will meet him. Al-Ash'ath informed me, by Allah. This was said regarding me. There was a dispute about a piece of land between me and a man from the Jews who denied my right. I took him to the Prophet. Allah's apostle asked me, do you have an evidence? I replied in the negative. He said to the Jew, take an oath. I said, O Allah's apostle, he will surely take an oath and take my property unjustly. So, Allah revealed, verily, those who purchase a little gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and their oaths, Quran 3 verse 77. Number 835, narrated Ibn Abu Mulaika, Ibn Abbas wrote that the Prophet gave his verdict on the basis of the defendant's oath. Number 836, narrated Abu Wa'il Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, whoever takes a false oath in order to grab some property unjustly, Allah will be angry with him when he will meet him. Allah confirmed that through his divine revelation. Verily, those who purchase a little gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and their oaths, they will have a painful punishment. Quran 3 verse 77, Al-Ash'ath bin Qais came to us and asked, what is Abu Abdurrahman, that is Abdullah, telling you? We told him what he was narrating to us. He said, he was telling the truth. This divine verse was revealed in connection with me. There was a dispute between me and another man about something, and the case was filed before Allah's apostle, who said, produce your two witnesses or else the defendant is to take an oath. I said, the defendant will surely take a false oath caring for nothing. The Prophet said, whoever takes a false oath in order to grab others' property, then Allah will be angry with him when he will meet him. Then Allah revealed its confirmation. Al-Ash'ath then recited the above divine verse. Quran 3 verse 77. Number 837, narrated Ibn Abbas, Hilal bin Umayyah accused his wife before the Prophet of committing illegal sexual intercourse with Sharik bin Sama. The Prophet said, produce a proof, or else you would get the legal punishment by being lashed on your back. Hilal said, O Allah's apostle, if any one of us saw another man over his wife, would he go to search for a proof? The Prophet went on saying, produce a proof or else you would get the legal punishment by being lashed on your back. The Prophet then mentioned the narration of Lianas in the Holy Book, Surat al-Nur. Chapter 24. Number 838, narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle said, there are three persons whom Allah will neither talk to nor look at, nor purify from the sins, and they will have a painful punishment. They are: 1. A man possessed superfluous water on a way and he withheld it from the travelers. 2. A man who gives a pledge of allegiance to a Muslim ruler and gives it only for worldly gains. If the ruler gives him what he wants, he remains obedient to it, otherwise he does not abide by it. And 3. A man bargains with another man after the Asr prayer and the latter takes a false oath in the name of Allah claiming that he has been offered so much for the thing and the former believes him and buys it. Number 839, narrated Ibn Mas'ud, the Prophet said, whoever takes a false oath in order to grab others' property, then Allah will be angry with him when he will meet him. Number 840, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet asked some people to take an oath, and they hurried for it. The Prophet ordered that lots should be drawn amongst them as to who would take an oath first. Number 841, narrated Abdullah bin Abu Awfa, a man displayed some goods in the market and took a false oath that he had been offered so much for them though he was not offered that amount. Then the following divine verse was revealed. Verily, those who purchase a little gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and their oaths, will get painful punishment. Quran 3 verse 77. Ibn Abu Awfa added, such person as described above is a treacherous real-eater, that is, eater of usury. Number 842, narrated Abu Wa'il from Abdullah, the Prophet said, whoever takes a false oath in order to grab another man's or his brother's property, then Allah will be angry with him when he will meet him. Then Allah confirmed this by revealing the divine verse. Verily, those who purchase a little gain at the cost of Allah's covenant and their oaths, will get painful punishment. Quran 3 verse 77, Al-Ash'ath met me and asked, what did Abdullah tell you today? I said, so and so. He said, the verse was revealed regarding my case. Number 843, narrated Talha bin Ubaidullah, a man came to Allah's Apostle asking him about Islam. Allah's Apostle said, you have to offer 5 compulsory prayers in a day and a night 24 hours. The man asked, is there any more compulsory prayers for me? Allah's Apostle said, no, unless you like to offer nawafil, that is, optional prayers. Allah's Apostle then added, you have to observe fasts during the month of Ramadan. The man said, am I to fast any other days? Allah's Apostle said, no, unless you wish to observe the optional fast voluntarily. Then Allah's Apostle told him about the compulsory zakat. The man asked, do I have to give anything besides? Allah's Apostle said, no, unless you wish to give in charity voluntarily. So, the man departed saying, by Allah, I will neither do more nor less than that. Allah's Apostle said, if he has said the truth he will be successful. Number 844, narrated Abdullah, the Prophet said, whoever has to take an oath should swear by Allah or remain silent. That is, he should not swear by other than Allah. Number 845, narrated Salama, once Allah's Apostle said, you people present your cases to me, and some of you may be more eloquent and persuasive in presenting their argument. So, if I give someone's right to another wrongly because of the latter's tricky presentation of the case, I am really giving him a piece of fire. So he should not take it. Number 846, narrated Abdullah bin Abbas, Abu Sufyan told me that Heraclius said to him, when I inquired you what he, that is Muhammad, ordered you, you replied that he ordered you to establish the prayer, to speak the truth, to be chaste, to keep promises and to pay back trusts. Then Heraclius added, these are really the qualities of a prophet. Number 847, narrated Abu Hurairah, Allah's Apostle said, the signs of a hypocrite are 3. 1. Whenever he speaks, he tells a lie. 2. Whenever he is entrusted, he proves to be dishonest. 3. Whenever he promises, he breaks his promise. Number 848, narrated Muhammad bin Ali, Jabir bin Abdullah said, when the Prophet died, Abu Bakr received some property from Al-Ala bin al-Adrami. Abu Bakr said to the people, whoever has a money claim on the Prophet, or was promised something by him, should come to us so that we may pay him his right. Jabir added, I said to Abu Bakr, Allah's Apostle promised me that he would give me this much, and this much, and this much, spreading his hands 3 times. Jabir added, Abu Bakr counted for me and handed me 500 gold pieces, and then 500, and then 500. Number 849, narrated Said bin Jubair, a Jew from Hira asked me which one of the 2 periods Musa, that is Prophet Moses, completed. I said, I don't know, but wait till I see the most learned Arab and inquire him about it. So, I went to Ibn Abbas and asked him. He replied, Moses completed the longer and better period. Ibn Abbas added, no doubt, an apostle of Allah always does what he says. Number 850, narrated Ubaidullah bin Abdullah bin Utbah, Ibn Abbas said, O Muslims! How do you ask the people of the scriptures, though your book, that is the Quran, which was revealed to his prophet, is the most recent information from Allah, and you recite it, the book that has not been distorted? Allah has revealed to you that the people of the scriptures have changed with their own hands what was revealed to them, and they have said as regards their changed scriptures, this is from Allah, in order to get some worldly benefit thereby. Ibn Abbas added, isn't the knowledge revealed to you sufficient to prevent you from asking them? By Allah, I have never seen any one of them asking Muslims about what has been revealed to you. Number 851, narrated An-Nu'man bin Bashir, the Prophet said, the example of the person abiding by Allah's orders and limits, or the one who abides by the limits and regulations prescribed by Allah in comparison to the one who do wrong and violate Allah's limits and orders, is like the example of people drawing lots for seats in a boat. Some of them got seats in the upper part while the others in the lower part. Those in the lower part have to pass by those in the upper one to get water, and that troubled the latter. One of them, that is the people in the lower part, took an axe and started making a hole in the bottom of the boat. The people of the upper part came and asked him, saying, "What is wrong with you?" He replied, "You have been troubled much by my coming up to you, and I have to get water." Now if they prevent him from doing that, they will save him and themselves, but if they leave him to do what he wants, they will destroy him and themselves. Number 852, narrated al-Allah, that when the answer drew lots as to which of the emigrants should dwell with which of the answer, the name of Uthman bin Mazin came out to be in their lot. Al-Allah further said, "Uthman stayed with us, and we nursed him when he got sick, but he died. We shrouded him in his clothes, and Allah's apostle came to our house, and I said, addressing the dead Uthman, 'O Abu Sa'ib, may Allah be merciful to you. I testify that Allah has blessed you.' The Prophet said to me, 'How do you know that Allah has blessed him?' I replied, 'I do not know, O Allah's apostle.' 'May my parents be sacrificed for you.' Allah's apostle said, 'As regards Uthman, by Allah he has died, and I really wish him every good, yet, by Allah, although I am Allah's apostle, I do not know what will be done to him.' Allah added, 'By Allah I shall never test the piety of anybody after him.' And what Allah's apostle said made me sad. Allah further said, 'Once I slept and saw in a dream a flowing stream for Uthman. So I went to Allah's apostle and told him about it. He said, that is the symbol of his deeds.'" Number 853, narrated Aisha, whenever Allah's apostle intended to go on a journey, he used to draw lots among his wives and would take with him the one on whom the lot fell. He also used to fix for every one of his wives a day and a night, but Saudah bint Zam'a gave her day and night to Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, intending thereby to please Allah's apostle. Number 854, narrated Abu Hurairah, Allah's apostle said, "If the people knew what is the reward of making the call for the prayer and the being in the first row in the prayer, and if they found no other way to get this privilege except by casting lots, they would certainly cast lots for it. If they knew the reward of the noon prayer, they would race for it, and if they knew the reward of the morning, that is Fajr and Isha prayers, they would present themselves for the prayer even if they had to crawl to reach there.